Hi everyone, it's Alice, and today we're doing a book haul. I'm very ready for a new and brighter season though. We're sort of at the tail end of winter here, at least I think so. It's hard to tell sometimes because this time of year the weather is very shifty. Like one day it will be cold and frosty, and the next day it will be much milder and sunny, and then suddenly it will like snow. So it's kind of hard to tell, but we're in that in between space where it's really hard to dress because you never know if it's going to be cold or warm or whatever. But at least spring is nearing, I think, and I'm super excited about it. I really hope that I'm going to get to read a lot, which is why I got so excited about so many new books. And I don't really know how I think I'm going to be able to read so much because I still have work, I have school, exams coming up. It's going to be a lot, but a girl can dream. As always, though, we have a mix of different genres and all kinds of different things because that's what I like to read. Just about anything, really. So let's get into it and let's start with some contemporary books because this first one that I have has a beautiful spring cover. It's The Vanishing Cherry Blossom Bookshop by Takuya Asakura. I'm not gonna lie, I did kind of get this because it's so beautiful and it just looks like one of those translated books that I usually really enjoy. And I mean, it's so pretty that I just couldn't leave it behind. The story is about a bookshop that only appears during the cherry blossom season, and this bookshop is run by a mysterious woman and her wise cat. At least that's what it says. I don't know what makes the cat wise, but I always like a cat side character, and I think this is very much like the setup of a lot of these kinds of books where we meet different characters who go into this bookshop and I guess get a book that offers them healing and solace, and we get to read their stories. And I usually enjoy these kinds of books when I'm in the mood for them, so I'm happy to have this, and like it's so pretty. The second one I have again is a translated book. It's The Healing Season of Pottery by Yeon Somin. And this one is about a burned out like TV broadcaster who I think decides to just like leave her job because she's so burned out. And she isolates herself in her apartment. And when she starts going out again, I think she comes across this pottery shop. And the mysterious owner of that pottery shop sort of invites her in. I think she starts taking classes there, and the story is about her coming back to herself and healing from what's happened and sort of moving on. And I've heard that this is great for people who liked Welcome to the Hanyamdong Bookshop, which I really enjoyed, so I'm excited to have this. And I like the idea of like pottery being a part of the story. The next one, I just had to pick up a copy of this one. It's The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. And the Women's Prize long list was recently announced, and this was on it. And this had been on my radar before that, but the fact that it was on there made me even more excited to like get this book and read it. And it took me a little bit of time because I've been tracking down this edition because this is the one that I wanted. I don't really know why. The other editions are also really pretty, but there's something about birds on covers that really do it for me. And I just really like this one. I don't think birds like play a part in this at all, but yeah, I just think the birds on here are very cute. All I really know about this one is that it follows a main character who throughout her life she has always written letters to the people in her life, and then at some point I think she gets a letter that sort of changes everything for her. That's all I really know, and I don't really want to know that much more. I just want to go into this and see what I find. And this is one of those books where like I'm trying to manage my expectations, but I have a really good feeling about it. And so I'm very excited about it, but I don't really know what I'm basing it on. I have a feeling that I'm gonna love it. Next, we have some historical fiction books. The first one being The Secret Service of Tea and Treason by India Holton. And this is the third book in a series that I can't remember the name of, but the first book is The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. I really enjoyed this series. These books are kind of like over the top and ridiculous, but in a way that is very entertaining to read, at least for me. And the books in the series are all set in the same world, but we don't follow the same characters. So in this one, we meet two spies who I think have to pretend to be married to infiltrate this like society of pirates or something, and I guess they're trying to stop some sort of plot against the government or something like that. These books are all set in Victorian England, but it's like an alternate version of Victorian England, and there is a little bit of like magic. We have flying houses and witches, and it's just a lot of fun for me. These books are also like, they are pretty romance heavy, but in a way that I enjoy because there is a lot of other stuff going on as well. Usually I'm not the biggest romance reader, but in these books, I usually get quite invested and I really enjoy it, probably because there is a lot of other stuff also going on. Then we have another beautiful book. It's this one. It's My Name is Emilia Del Valle or Del Valle, I don't really know, but it's by Isabel Allende. And I'm really excited to have this because it's beautiful. And this is an author that I really want to read more from because I think I've read a couple of her books, but the one I remember the most is, I think it's called The Long Petal of the Sea, and I loved that one, and so I want to read more by her. This one follows this woman who is born in San Francisco in 1866, and she's born to a nun who had an affair, but then is like left pregnant by whoever she had that affair with. And our main character grows up to be really headstrong and independent, and I think we just follow her throughout her life. I think the main character becomes a writer and a journalist, and she has like a great sense of adventure, and it just sounds interesting. I really enjoyed the characters in that other book that I read by this author, and so I'm hoping that I'm going to love the characters in here as well. She sounds like an interesting one, so I'm excited about that. I also picked up Still Life by Sarah Winman, and again, this is one of those cases where I've read one book by this author, loved it, and then haven't read anything else, and I'm trying to get better at reading more from authors that I know that I like, because I get very easily distracted by everything else, but I really should get better at reading more from authors that I've loved, and the book that I read and loved by this author was called Tin Man. I read it quite a few years ago now, but I loved it. Anyways, this one starts off in Tuscany in 1944, so we're towards the end of World War II, and we meet a soldier who, like, takes refuge in a cellar of this abandoned villa, and I guess there's something else there as well because he runs into a middle-aged art historian. And for some reason, this meeting changes his whole, like, path in life, and I think we follow him throughout the rest of his life. And that's all I really know. I really like books that start off like that, and this sounds like a little bit of a character study, which I love, and I just loved Tin Man so much. I gave that book 5 stars because I thought it was amazing, and I loved the characters in it. So I'm excited about this. It is a little bit of a longer one, but I feel like for books like this, that makes sense, and usually I prefer them to be a little bit longer so we spend more time with the character. Moving on, we have a pretty big fantasy section because I love me a good fantasy book, and the first one that I have is a very pretty new release. It is The Elsewhere Express by Samantha Sotto Yambao, and this is obviously a very pretty book. This one just sounds really good to me. It's about this magical train that I think you sort of just wake up on. It says that the main character in this one is sort of lost in life and she falls asleep on the subway. Or she starts like daydreaming and she sort of gets lost in that, and then she wakes up on this train. And the whole purpose of the train is for people to be able to find a purpose in life. And that just sounds really nice. I do think there is some danger lurking on this train as well, though. There is mention of that, but I just really like these kinds of books, and yeah, it's just very pretty. I hadn't noticed, though, that the end papers look like this. So maybe you're supposed to, like, color in. Yeah, it says so here that it's kind of like for you to color in. That's a very cool idea. I don't know if I would do that because it feels a little wrong sometimes to, like, write in books, but yeah. Very beautiful edition. Hopefully I will like the book as well. I'm definitely in the mood for like magical books these days because that sounds like a magical read, and so does this next one, although magical in a different way. It's How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days by Jessie Sylva. And obviously I had to get this one because I love the title of it, and just It sounds like a lot of fun. It follows a halfling and a goblin who both think that they've inherited the same house. And they decide to sort of strike a bargain where they're both gonna live there, and whoever is able to drive the other one out first gets the house. Which just sounds so funny to me. There is mention of like some sort of outside enemy and a tall intruder, which I don't really know who that is, but there is some outside forces going on as well. But it just sounds like a lot of fun, and yeah, it sounds a little silly, but also whimsical. We have a lot of pink covers today, I feel, and this next one has that as well. It's This Princess Kills Monsters by Herman. And again, I really like the title of this one. This follows a princess who keeps getting sent on all of these like dangerous quests by her stepmother, I think, who doesn't seem that great. And she keeps having to be rescued by her sisters who are more magically gifted than her because she doesn't have a lot of magical talent. And then I think she gets ordered to marry some sort of king who she's never met, and she gets kidnapped or something. I don't really know, but it mentions like a talking lion and some huntsmen and an adventure, and we all know how much I love an adventure. I do wonder if there's dragons in this one though, because it has a dragon on the cover, but we'll see. It looks beautiful and colorful, and yeah, I'm excited to read it. Then I got Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Marillier, and this is again an author I really want to read more from. I read a book by this author years ago and I really liked it, but then I never read anything else and I really want to get into her, so I got this one. I did also recently get another book by her that I haven't read yet, but I came across this one and it just looked really good, so I had to get it. It follows a main character who is the seventh child of this king, and she is the only daughter, and she generally like lives a very happy, content life. But then I think her father remarries and he is cursed, or like she is an evil enchantress, this new woman, and she puts some sort of spell on him. And our main character has to go on some sort of quest to break that spell. And there's mention of like fairies and fae folk, so I think those are involved as well. And yeah, it's also set in Ireland, which is really cool. And it just sounds very magical, and I really think I'm gonna love it. I do need to like actually read something else by this author before I keep getting more of her books, but now I have two to choose from. The last fantasy books that I got are these three books. These are all by T. Kingfisher, and it's three of the four books in this series that I can't remember the name of, but the first one is called Paladin's Grace, I think. And you might think that I got these because I've read that first one and loved it. No, but I do really like this author, so I'm sure I'm gonna like the first one, and I found these really cheap in these editions that I wanted, so I just got them. In my defense, although I don't really need to defend myself because I'm an adult and I can do whatever I want with my own money, in my defense, this is one of my favorite authors, and I've liked almost everything that I've read by her, and I've read quite a lot. And I'm convinced that I'm gonna love this series, and I'm usually always convinced that I'm gonna love her books, so I feel like I am justified in my choices. I also know these covers are a little like not everyone's favorite. I should probably tell you what they're called. This is Paladin's Hope, Paladin's Faith, and Paladin's Strength. And I just really like these editions actually. The first time I saw them, I was not convinced, but now I'm like kind of into them. And I think based on these covers actually, I think that we follow different characters in all of these books because they have different characters on the front. I think I thought that they all followed the same characters, but maybe they don't. And yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna love these. Like, I love all of T. Kingfisher's books. Almost all of them. I have had one that I didn't like, but mostly I really like them. And I do really like these editions as well. They look really good together. Next, we have a couple of science fiction books. So we have To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. And to be honest, I just saw a really good review for this and it made me want to read it. So I got it. This is a pretty short one, and all I really know is that it follows a space expedition, and this expedition is I guess we follow a main character who's a part of it, and they are looking for other habitable worlds in space. And that's all I really know. Whenever I come across one of these books that's very short, I don't really want to look too much into it because I don't want to be spoiled. And it just looks really good, so I'm gonna give it a go. I haven't read a lot of books in space, but usually when I read them, I do really like them. The other one I got is Everything You Ever Wanted by Luisa Salma. And although you can never trust these things, I came across this book, I think on Instagram, and someone said, like, if you like the book, I Who Have Never Known Men, you might like this. And that immediately made me want to read it. I don't think anything is ever gonna top that book or be anything similar to it. But if this is like anywhere in that vicinity, it might be a very interesting read, I think. I'm not sure I completely understand what this is about, but it mentions that there is some sort of competition that gives 100 lucky winners the opportunity to move to a different planet, I think, and start a whole new way of life. And I do sort of see the comparison to I Who Have Never Known Men in that, maybe, but it also sounds very different. So I don't really know what to expect from this one, but I'm gonna give it a go and see, and just maybe go in a little blind. I wonder what this space place or this other planet is gonna be like and what they're doing there. Usually, whenever books are about people moving somewhere and starting a new society, usually doesn't go very well. Then we have a mystery section. And this first one, again, I got this because it was on the Women's Prize for Fiction long list, or it appeared there. And I was already interested in this book, but that made me actually go get it. It's Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. This is set on a remote island where a man lives with his three children, and they are the only people who live on this island. And one day, a woman washes ashore and they take her in because there's obviously no one else that's gonna take her in. They are the only people on this island, and I think this woman has some secrets, and things maybe get a little complicated. It sounds interesting, and I think it's going to be very atmospheric. Like, I'm very excited to see the setting and see what that's like. But I have been told by several of you that this is a very sad book and a little bit heavy, which is actually good for me to know, because then I know that I need to be like in the mindset for that when I read it. The second one I actually got as a belated Christmas present. It's Fox by Joyce Carol Oates, and my friend picked this out for me because she read on the back that it says boarding school, and she went, yep, that's the one. She'll probably like that one. And I mean, she's not wrong. I had actually looked at this book before and I was interested, so I feel like this was a good pick. And the story is, of course, set at this elite boarding school where we meet this professor who is very charming, and he charms everyone, the students, the other staff, like the parents, everyone. And then one day his car is found submerged in a lake or something, and I think there's body parts like strewn about. And obviously, this is a pretty big mystery, so I guess we try to figure out what happened. Then we have one that I will probably be saving for fall, but these books are very hard to find here, so when I came across this, I just got it. It's When the Crows Away by Orly Wallace, and this is the second book in the Evenfall Witches series, I think it's called. I read the first book last year or the year before, and I really enjoyed it. This is a cozy mystery and a cozy fantasy, and we follow a witch in here who lives with her aunts at this bed and breakfast. And I think the case in here, like the mystery, is about this like man who, chocolatier, is that what you call it? I think so. It's about this man who has died, and he is convinced that he was murdered, and our main character can see ghosts, so I'm guessing that she tries to help him. I really enjoyed the first book. It had such like a great autumnal atmosphere, and it was like magical and cozy, but it also had a lot of emotional elements to it that I really enjoyed. So I'm excited to read this as well, although it just feels like a more of an autumnal read for me. We also have some horror books, which is exciting, and this first one has an excellent cover. It's Hunger by Choi Jin-Young. This is another translated book, and to be honest, I don't really know that much about this. I only know that it starts off with a woman finding her partner murdered on the street, and she decides to take his body home, and I don't know what she does to it, but if this cover is any indication, and the title is any indication, I think it's gonna be pretty wild. I also got Hot Wax by ML Rio, mostly just because I'm interested in reading something else from this author. I've read If We Were Villains and I loved that book, and then I've read another book by her, like a short novella that I liked but didn't love, and I'm just interested in reading more from her. I think she's an interesting author. This is set in 1989 and it follows this 10-year-old girl who goes on, I think, tour with her father, who's a rock star. So she like joins him while he's touring, and then she witnesses an act of violence. And then she spends the next 3 decades sort of hiding away, and I'm guessing something happens where this comes up again, and that's all I really know. I don't know what the title means, like hot wax, but it sounds a little creepy. And I also don't know where the horror comes in, but I'm gonna give this a go and just see. I don't always love books that are about like music or like rock stars and things like that, but I don't know if that's like a big part of this, but I'm gonna read it and we'll see. Then we have another one that I will also probably save for fall because that just seems like the perfect time to read it. It's House of Splinters by Laura Purcell, and you may know that I read The Silent Companions, and that book really freaked me out, but in like the perfect way. I really enjoyed it. And although this, I don't think these books are sort of in the same series, I think this is set in the same place as The Silent Companions, and that estate is pretty troubling. I think we follow some people who end up moving to this estate. I think the man who lives there dies and his daughter like moves there and is finally like ready to take over and thinks that this will be a really good opportunity for them. But then the house is really messed up. Like there's a lot of weird stuff going on there, so I'm sure things are gonna get kind of scary. I don't know how or like in the same way as the Silent Companions. I'm not sure, but I loved like the atmosphere in the Silent Companions, so I'm hoping that will be like the same in here. And yeah, I'm really excited to read this and see what I think. Lastly, we have some nonfiction books. And the first one that I got is one that I've actually wanted since it came out. I just haven't gotten around to getting it until now. It's Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. This one is, as you can guess, all about tuberculosis and the history of it and how prevalent it has been in history. And even though I obviously know what tuberculosis is and I know a little bit about the history of it, I don't know a lot, so I'm very excited to read this and see. And I really like when this author writes nonfiction, so I'm just assuming that I'm really gonna like this. The next one is a book that I am adding to my collection of books about death. It's Someone is Walking on Your Grave by Mariana Enriquez, and I've been looking for this book in this edition for quite some time, so I'm really happy that I came across it. This is in part about all of these iconic cemeteries around the world, and in part a memoir of this author. And I really like these kinds of books where they mix like something super specific with a memoir. Like for some reason that really works for me. I love a good cemetery, and I think what sparked the idea of writing this book for the author is that she lost someone that she loved, and that made her think more about the places where we lay people to rest. And I just think that sounds so interesting, and I can't wait to read this and like look up how all these cemeteries look. And I don't know, I just really like books about death and cemeteries and things like that, so I'm excited to have this. I like that this cover is not particularly depressing and that it's not black, actually. Like, I really like this edition. It's, I don't know if this gives an indication of what the book is like, but yeah, I'm excited to see. It does say on the quote here that this is a witty wander among the dead. So maybe this is a little funny. I don't know, but that kind of humor actually suits me quite well, so that's exciting. Then at the very end, we have A Hymn to Life by Giselle Pellicot, and this is one of those books where I immediately had to get this. It's been a while since I've been so sort of desperate to read something. Like, I just got this book and I read it in 3 days because I just wanted to read it right away. I'm sure we're all aware, but this tells the story of this woman who, after having been married to her husband for 50 years, she found out that he had been drugging her and inviting strangers over to their house to abuse her. And this was a huge case, so I'm assuming everyone's heard of this, but it became an even bigger case when she decided at the trial to not be anonymous. She came forward with her name and face, and that made it even bigger. And I've already read this, so I'm gonna review this in my next like wrap up, but it was very well worth the read. That was the last book though in my pretty big stack, and I'm super excited to read this book. I'm always excited to read all of the books that I get, obviously, but I really want to get to some of the ones soon that feel very appropriate for spring, so hopefully I will have some time to read those. I would love to know if you have picked up any new books lately, though, maybe especially if they're spring related, or if you've read any of the ones that I mentioned. I'd love to hear what you thought. And yeah, that was it for today. As always, thank you very much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you soon. Bye!